Today we'll hear from my colleagues, Councilmember Mitch Brown, President Pro Tem Elizabeth Brown, and Councilmember Emmanuel Remy. We also have with us today my colleagues, Councilmember Dorrance, Councilmember Favor, and Councilmember Tyson. Today we will be hearing from our Commissioner, Public Health Commissioner, Myshika Roberts. Dr. Roberts will provide us a status update on COVID-19 in Columbus and how Columbus Public Health is responding. Then we'll hear about public safety from Councilmember Mitchell Brown and Deputy Chief Michael Woods from the Columbus Division of Police. After that, President Pro Tem will talk about childcare as well as Rec and Parks with Sophia Phiffier, Columbus Relations Director for the Department of Recreation and Parks. Finally, we'll hear from Development Chair Emmanuel Remy and Ashley Bell from the Small Business Administration about how small businesses can receive relief and assistance during this difficult time. So we've been collecting residents' questions by emails and social media. Our council members and special guests will be answering some of those questions with us today. This week, we have American Sign Language interpreters from the Deaf Services Center with us. We heard that request last week, and I'm excited that we were able to get that done for today's town hall. I would like to welcome Dr. Roberts, Commissioner for Columbus Public Health. Thanks for joining us today, Dr. Roberts. First to say thank you to all those first responders, to your team who have been leading us and keeping us safe for the last couple months. Would you be able to give us an update and overview of the current status of COVID in Columbus?
Sure, and thank you so much, Council President Hardin and all members of council that are present today. Happy to share where we are with an update on COVID-19 here in Columbus and Franklin County. This is National Public Health Week, so thanks to the shout out for my team here. They're working really hard. I couldn't be more proud of all the work that they've been able to accomplish in the last month since we've really turned up the heat and really gone into full gear to respond to this worldwide pandemic. So as of today, there are 480 cases of COVID-19 here in Columbus's jurisdiction, which includes the city of Columbus and the city of Worthington. Unfortunately, we have had 6 individuals that have died from COVID-19 in our jurisdiction. If we look at the breakdown of those cases, about 55% of our cases are female, 18% have required hospitalization. And of that 18% that required hospitalization, 32% of those have been admitted to the ICU or the intensive care unit. And 25% of our cases are healthcare workers. So these are likely employees or individuals who were exposed to COVID-19 while at work in a healthcare environment. As I continue to say, the vast majority of our cases are young. Close to 30%, 40% of our cases are between the ages of 20 and 29, and close to 50% or more of our cases are in the community unit. And 25% of our cases are healthcare workers. So these are likely employees or individuals. When you're around other people, where you might not be able to maintain 6 feet of distance between you and the person next to you, should wear a mask. The recommendation is that you wear a house-made mask or a homemade mask, not a medical mask. So not an N95, not a surgical mask, but a mask that you could easily make at home with a scarf, a handkerchief, a bandana. And there's lots of tutorials online. The Surgeon General has a great tutorial of how you could make one with a cloth, a t-shirt that you could cut, some rubber bands, or some hair ties. So I would encourage individuals, if you do have to go out in public to do those essential errands, that you wear a mask. And let me explain to you what the mask will do. We now know that individuals can transmit this infection when they are not exhibiting any symptoms. That's called asymptomatic spread. So you as an individual might not have any symptoms today, but you could shed the virus through your respiratory droplets that can come from your nose and your mouth. And so it's important to protect others in the community that you wear this mask while out in public so that you're not unknowingly spreading this virus to other people. Again, this is not a mandate. This is a recommendation from CDC. Dr. Acton from the Ohio Department of Health has also recommended and encouraged people to wear the mask, but it is not a mandate. I also wanted to address some questions about the symptoms of COVID-19. When we first started looking at this disease, we knew that some of the common symptoms were cough, shortness of breath, and fever. Now we know that people can present with a variety of different symptoms, sometimes abdominal pain, nausea, vomiting, and diarrhea. In addition to that, some people can also present with pink eye or conjunctivitis. There are a variety of different ways that people can present with COVID-19, but the most important thing we know is how it's transmitted, and that's through respiratory droplets that would enter your body either through your mouth, your nose, or your eyes. So please, please, please continue to wash your hands. Make sure you don't touch your mouth, your nose, and your eyes if you haven't just washed your hands. Really try to avoid touching those areas unless you absolutely have to, because those are common ways that the virus can enter your system and infect you. We know that many of our restaurants have closed because of the restrictions on restaurants to be carry out only. I can assure you that we are still trying to protect the food chain here in Columbus, and we are still out doing our inspections of our food establishments. During this pandemic, food establishments still have to maintain all the rules and regulations they would during a non-pandemic situation. So individuals in food service establishments do need to wear gloves when they're serving ready-to-eat food. So if it's something that's going to be eaten without being cooked, warmed up, or something like that, like sushi or like a bagel that they would serve to you on a plate or in a container, they have to wear gloves for that. They do not have to wear gloves if they're putting a piece of chicken on a grill, because that piece of chicken will be cooked before you eat it. But any ready-to-made or ready-to-eat food has to be served and touched by food service establishments with a glove. Bare hands can be used on food that will be cooked before it will be consumed by the public. Trying to answer some of the other questions you all have about a COVID-19 task force in the city. There is not a specific COVID-19 task force in the city. I can assure you that most departments in the city of Columbus are working on this pandemic, including our city council members. We talk on a regular basis. Everyone is responding, but there is not a COVID-19 task force here in the city of Columbus, but it is a multi-layered approach with all city departments working together to help address this issue across the city and across the area. We work with our hospitals as well, healthcare providers, and that coordination continues, as well as working with our first responders, whether that be fire, EMS, or our police officers. And then the last thing is I wanted to I think that's it then. I'm going to turn it over to you, Council President Hardin, if you have any questions for me.
Thank you, Dr. Roberts. No, I think you did a great job going through some of the questions that we both received through our emails and through Facebook. Again, we just want to thank you for all the work, the tireless day in and day out work that you're doing to keep all of us safety. Please send along again our appreciation on National Health Workers Day. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So our police officers and firefighters are on the front lines of this pandemic, and they deserve our sincere gratitude. I also want to thank all the folks who continue to keep our families fed and healthy, whether that's the cashiers at grocery stores, healthcare workers, or our CODA operators. Thank you all for your service during this time. We appreciate all the work and all those who are working to keep our city moving forward. At this time, I'd like to introduce Public Safety Chair, Councilmember Mitch Brown, and Columbus Division of Police Deputy Chief Mike Woods. Councilmember, take it away, please.
will look to our first responders to provide stability and hope. While most of us stay home to protect ourselves and our families, members of the Columbus Division of Police and the Division of Fire will continue to ensure Columbus residents receive protection and care. An example of this continued work is the recent opening of Fire Station 35, which will begin service to residents on the Far East Side in late March. In addition, the Division of Police will soon be opening a new substation on Sanctus Boulevard, with ceremonies to be scheduled in the near future. These new facilities will improve response times to quickly growing areas of Columbus, while the Division of Fire continues to provide aid to residents through pre-hospital emergency medical services and fire suppression. The Division of Police is ensuring residents remain safe in these trying times. During tonight's town hall, I'd like to focus on how the Division of Police is addressing enforcement while Governor DeWine's stay-at-home order is in place. I'd like to invite Deputy Chief Mike Woods from the Columbus Division of Police to provide some clarity on the division's policies as they relate to the governor's order. Deputy Chief Woods?
Me tonight at tonight's virtual town hall. Before we begin, I'd like to let everyone know that the city is facing some unusual and challenging times, and the Division of Police is ready to face those challenges. We've created policies to reduce social interactions between our officers and the public. We've developed staffing policies so that we remain ready and able to respond to all emergencies. And we've equipped our officers with safety equipment to help keep them safe. With these changes and the help from all of our residents, we remain ready to assist the city with any emergency we should face.
Council President, if you have any additional questions that you'd like to pose to Deputy Chief Woods?
Yes, sir. So thank you, council member, and thank you to Chief Woods. We've received a couple questions pertaining to public safety. The first question that we have is, if residents see a gathering that may be in violation of the governor's orders, how should they inform the proper authorities? It might give me 1 second to get you back up, Chief Woods. There you go. Chief, can you answer that question?
Yes, I can. I was waiting for it to come back up. Yeah, there are actually two scenarios that we might encounter. One is a gathering at a business or restaurant or something, and the second is maybe a party or a social gathering at someone's neighborhood or something like that. So, under business situations, we would ask you to call 311, and how we respond to that is teaming up with Columbus Public Health. Sanitarians and police officers will visit those locations, and we will advise and educate them about the governor's order, and we can issue a warning letter if necessary. Same kind of thing goes for gatherings at a private residence or at a park or something. For those, we'd ask you to call our non-emergency number, 645-4545. We'll send patrol officers out. Again, we hope to educate, advise on the governor's order, and we still have that ability to issue that warning letter. And in those most egregious situations, we can issue a summons if for a violation. But we really think that most folks are following the order. They're helping us out, and we hope to keep those things to a minimum. But we are ready to respond to them if needed.
Thank you, Chief. We have another question that's probably going to come your way. How is the division taking precautions to protect our officers? I think you hit on this a second ago. As they perform their duties, how will this impact calls to 911, or will it impact our calls to 911? And that, again, is going to go to Deputy Chief.
Yeah, thank you, President Hart. Like I said, we've given our officers some safety equipment. They have masks, they have gloves, eye protection that they can use when responding to calls for service, which is helping us keep our officers safe so that they remain available to respond to calls. We've also created a call center. So instead of taking reports in person, we divert that citizen to the phone bank. They can call in, they can make the same report. We'll do the same follow-up that we would if an officer went out and took the report in person. So overall, 911 calls won't be impacted. That's our goal, is to remain ready and available should any emergency pop up. So while we've changed some of our protocols on non-emergency situations, we remain the same capabilities that we always have for 911 calls.
Thank you, Chief. This question comes from Jessica Van Rankin, who lives near OSU. She asks, what, if anything, is being done to push for the release of people incarcerated in Columbus so they are not confined in conditions that significantly increase their vulnerability to contract COVID-19? And I think I'll ask Councilmember Mitch Brown if he can help us out with that question. There we go. Now we hear you.
We've received a number of questions in regards to the Franklin County Detention Centers. While these questions remain and certainly are relevant, Columbus City Council has no authority to direct the Franklin County Sheriff with regards to its facilities that are under its specific authority. However, my office is forwarding these questions to the appropriate individuals in the Sheriff's office, and once we have responses, we'll make sure they get sent out to the appropriate individuals by email or by text messages.
Thank you, Councilmember Brown, and thank you to Deputy Chief Woods for all your work. Again, please, Deputy Chief, pass along our appreciation on behalf of a grateful city for our first responders who are keeping us safe. Next, we're going to hear from President Pro Tem Elizabeth Brown and Sophia Phiffier from the Department of Recreation and Parks. However, I want to first put another plug in for the census. An accurate count helps to inform how hundreds of billions of dollars will be distributed for critical services like health clinics, schools, public transit, and tons of other programs. I got my invitation to participate in the mail the other day. Since then, I've been able to, with my husband, Ben, fill out our census. It took about 10 minutes or so to do so. So hop on to 2020census.gov to ensure that Ohio gets our fair share. So moving on to our next segment, I'd like to introduce my colleague, President Pro Tem Elizabeth Brown and Sophia Phiffier, to chat about childcare and recreation in parks. Thank you so much, Councilmember Brown, for all your work and all you're doing, and certainly to Sophia for helping to maintain our parks and keep us all safe. Turn it over to Councilmember Brown.
Thank you, President Hardin. I was told to wait 6 seconds during the transition, so I'm counting to 6, not being awkward. All right, so I'm pleased to be here to discuss childcare and recreation in parks among the host of things that our residents are confronting during this crisis. The spread of COVID-19 has changed key aspects of families' lives. The loss of most childcare options and closure of rec centers and playgrounds have meant that most families are looking for new ways to find care, while we're also helping little ones hit their developmental milestones if they're at home. I live that every day with my 2 young ones at home. Families are also struggling at times simply to keep their children entertained. So I want to first of all note for essential workers, if you fall into that category, childcare is still available through a special temporary license by the state for pandemic childcare centers. There are approximately 250 of these centers in Franklin County. If you are classified as an essential worker, please visit the Action for Children website to see the map of open centers in the county and to take advantage of this resource. These centers can be a lifeline for those who've lost care with the closure of centers ordered by the state. And for parents working from home with kids, it can be very challenging to ensure they continue to learn. While it's true that parents are their children's first teacher, it does not mean that it's easy to find productive and engaging activities, especially on top of your work responsibilities if you have them. I know we received questions on these items, and I look forward to going into more detail in a little bit. On top of learning, sometimes what kids most need is just to get out of the house and play. So I am excited to introduce Recreation and Parks Community Relations Chief Sophia Phiffier to talk about what the department is doing to help kids and families continue to stay active under COVID-19 restrictions. Sophia, thank you so much for being a resource here for us today.
For championing everything that we do as a department. And I'm not sure if you could hear my audio. So thank you, Council President Pro Tem Brown. We really appreciate your support and championing the work that we do as a department. So our department's mission is to connect the people of Columbus through the power of nature, wellness, and creativity. Our focus is on gathering and providing recreational opportunities for all ages. So when we were informed about the COVID-19 virus and the community spread that presented challenges for our department with our gatherings and our events and classes and programming, we wanted to do everything we could to align with Columbus Public Health to keep residents safe and healthy. So immediately we chose to close our facilities because we wanted to make sure that folks were safe. We canceled our programming and classes for the same reason, but more importantly, we also took pretty dramatic steps in closing our playgrounds, our basketball courts, and our tennis courts. And the reason why we did this is because we want to do everything we can as a department to limit mass gatherings. We are encouraging folks to stay at least 6 feet away from others. And we're also encouraging folks to make sure they're consistently washing their hands and following all of the recommendations from Columbus Public Health. That means that we've taped up our playgrounds, we've closed our basketball courts, we've closed our tennis courts and our adult fitness gyms that are outside. All of those facilities are closed. With that being said, there are lots of opportunities for folks to still find recreation in our park system. We have actually over 400 parks across Columbus and 230 miles of regional trails. And all of those parks and regional trails are still open to families. And for families with young ones, that means that taking a walk or taking a bike ride might be a better alternative for getting some outside health and recreation when you're cooped up inside. And for our older adults, the same thing. We want folks to use our trails, use our parks as spaces to focus on their mental and physical health during this public health emergency.
Thank you to President Pro Tem and to Sophia. We have several questions that have come in for this segment. The first question that I see is that I see kids and teenagers playing outside, especially tossing balls around in groups and playing basketball. What is Recreation and Parks doing to ensure folks can be active while not spreading COVID? And you kind of hit on this a little bit, Sophia, but if you want to go any further.
Sure. We are very concerned about the health and safety of all residents across Columbus, which is why we specifically chose to proactively close our playgrounds and our sports courts to limit mass gatherings. But some other options for especially young adults and individuals who have young kids at home is we have a whole website, columbusrecpark.com. You can go to the Schools Out page and find resources from COSI, resources from Columbus City Schools on different activities and programs you can do to stay healthy during the public health emergency.
All right. We have a question from Catherine Gervis. She's the executive director of VA Bikes, and she asks, a number of communities are reallocating street space to provide a safe space for people walking and biking for health and transportation while maintaining social distance. As we see large number of users on some of our trails like Olentangy and Alum Creek, making it hard to maintain social distance. Is there any thought about doing that here in Columbus? Truthfully, this is an idea that I'm really interested in, and I wonder if President Pro Tem had any thoughts on this.
I'm sorry about that. Was just unmuting. I think Sophia is the expert on what Recreation and Parks is considering. From what I know, Rec and Parks hasn't discussed closing streets to increase access to recreational trail use at this time. But I know that the department is monitoring usage of trails and parks and will make adjustments when necessary per the direction of Columbus Public Health. I just want to emphasize how important mental and physical health are right now. And we know that our residents are struggling in a host of different ways, and every situation is unique. I empathize with families who are really struggling, whether as older adults or with young children, to get out of their homes in a safe way. As the weather is getting better, it's I think in all of our nature to want to break outside our four walls and to get out there. And so with our 400 parks and 230 miles of regional trails, we hope people can do that safely with the infrastructure in Columbus as it stands. But our Recreation and Parks Department, I will just say, I've been working closely with them from the beginning of this crisis, and they have been very responsive to people's concerns about overcrowding. Continue to let us know when you see these issues. The first weekend that playgrounds were closed, these issues were reported. I know I got some messages. I know Sophia and the department got many messages, and they were immediately responsive. It is actually not an easy thing to close down our playgrounds, to remove basketball rims and tennis nets, and to make sure that our recreation infrastructure is as safe as possible so that there is no community spread. But they did that. They wrote the plan and did that quickly. So we know that residents want more and more ways to get outside while safely practicing social distancing. And we want to be in close communication with our residents and with public health about the smartest ways to do that. Catherine, I think it's incredible that you made this suggestion, because these are the kinds of innovative solutions we may need to pursue in the future in order to keep people both healthy mentally and safe physically. So I really appreciate it.
Thank you, President Pro Tem. There are some questions pertaining to child care that we've received. And one of our residents asked, what are the options for child care if I'm considered an essential employee?
Thank you, Council President. So we spoke a little bit about that, and I would love to drill down further. If you're considered an essential employee, that Action for Children website is just actionforchildren.org. There's an interactive map on that website to complete an online help form. You can email Action for Children if you have questions at Childcare Resources at actionforchildren.org. Or you can simply just call 614-224-0222, extension 299. Action for Children has become the centralized resource to help connect essential workers with the childcare not only they need, but we need for them to be able to get. And I'd like to just take a moment to hit on what essential workers are. We all know that our public health professionals and our doctors and our nurses are on the front lines of fighting this pandemic within our health system, within our medical system. But we also know that I am only able to stay home because other people are showing up for work at the grocery store, at a takeout restaurant, driving our buses. All of these critical infrastructure jobs that people are doing in order to enable other residents to be able to stay home safely. If you are an essential worker, if you are asked to show up for work because it's on you to keep our community moving, please visit the Action for Children website and find out your options. We want to make sure you're taken care of because it's a health and safety matter for all of us.
Thank you, Councilmember. This next question is about the resources that are available to parents that are to create engaging learning activities. Like you said, some of us have kids that are able to have remote instruction, but some folks don't have these instructions. So what resources are available to help parents create engaging learning activities at home with their young children not receiving those remote learning instructions?
That's a great question. I think that parents are faced with different circumstances, but depending on the age of their child primarily. So a lot of our K through 12 systems have been sending home remote work for children to do, making remote assignments. And I know many of our CCS teachers are working very hard to be available for virtual instruction, as well as to develop lesson plans for their children. I want to commend the districts who serve Columbus residents for their hard work in getting those programs going. And I know CCS has done a mammoth effort of getting Chromebooks to children so that no matter what you're set up with at home, no matter what tools you do or do not have at home, everyone's on a level playing field to learn. So thank you, CCS. But if you have young children like I do, mine are not yet in the K through 12 system, they're still undergoing critically important years of learning. So 90% of brain development occurs before a child ever enters kindergarten. And this is a really critical time to interact with your children and help them learn. And yet, if you're working from home, or if you're showing up to your workplace, it is very difficult to find ways to connect your children with these fun, engaging, and educational activities. I have a 4-year-old and I have a son who will be 2 in just 6 days, which is crazy. And so I'm just going to rattle off a couple of the things we've been using. Her pre-K teachers have sent some wonderful Montessori resources to us about finding ways to explore learning in our own daily activities. Believe it or not, getting dinner ready with my children is a way to teach them. I was making their snack today and we talked about fractions using apples. If we cut the apple in 2, we've got 2 pieces, they're halves, and on till we had enough fractions that they were bite-sized enough for the children to eat. So little things like that are helpful. There's also the WOSU Public Classroom. They've made this available online. It's our own radio station here in Columbus with wonderful resources. They've also put this on television on PBS stations. So the WOSU Public Classroom is available actually on television too, so that if you don't have a computer at home or an internet connection, you are able to access these resources for your children. Additionally, I want to highlight something that Future Ready Columbus has put out with funding from the city, county, and other partners. Yesterday, Future Ready Columbus launched what's called Bright by Text. It is free to every parent across Franklin County. It includes special weekly tips for parents during this pandemic, and there's tailored messages for children prenatal through 8 years old. So you can sign up for that on their website. The tool is called Bright by Text. Those are some of the things that I wanted to highlight. I really appreciate the question about, not every parent is going through the same circumstance when it comes to keeping their children enriched. So I hope that some of those things can be useful to you at home. Thank you, Council President.
No, thank you. Those were really, really good tips and pointers for us. How should we talk about COVID-19 to our children, to young folks? Like, again, you have Russell at home and Caroline, but how are you talking to them about this craziness, this crisis that we're going through?
Well, that's a great question. And I do think that, we all have our own distinct parenting styles that inform the way we talk to our children about this. I have actually gone and looked at the CDC website for some guidance. I know that I'm not a child psychologist nor a medical professional. So when talking to my own children, I wanted to make sure I was following the advice of the experts. So first and foremost, they really tell us to be reassuring for our children, remain calm and make yourself available to listen to what they're saying back to you. I think as parents, it's common sometimes to want to get a message across to our kids and to forget to listen to what they're volleying back at us. And that's really important. Avoid language that might blame others or lead to stigma. There's no blame about somebody who has coronavirus right now. It's not, just bad people or weak people or these kinds of people who aren't us. again, as parents, you want to reassure your child that, oh, we can't get it, right? So it's other people who get it. But sometimes in that othering, we contribute to a stigma. So it's very important to avoid that kind of language. Pay attention to what your children might be absorbing on the radio. We had an NPR station on the other day, and Carolyn heard someone talking about how the infection, Carolyn's 4, heard someone talking about how the infection works in a human body. And she said to me, Mom, I don't want to hear about coronavirus anymore. And we turned the radio off. So pay attention to what your children are saying to you. And then try to provide really actionable, honest information about how your children in their everyday actions can reduce the spread of germs. Not only washing hands, picking your favorite song, whether it's the ABCs all the way through or Happy Birthday Twice, but also teaching them about what to do when they are outside enjoying the outdoors. We live in a neighborhood where my daughter often sees her friends from school, and I've had to talk to her about, we don't want to spread any germs right now, so she can't be with, approach a friend. She can stay back and sort of talk to them over the distance. The other day we were taking a walk and we saw a dog, and she said to me, Mom, I really want to pet that dog, but I know I have to stay 6 feet away. And I said, yes, that's true, Carolyn. And she said to me, I wish my arms were 6 feet long. So I know that this is hard in talking to our children, but I think if we can remain calm and reassuring and look to resources like this CDC's guidance and myriad other parenting blogs and resources that kind of help us find some expert advice that really inform the way we work with our own children. Thank you.
Thank you to Sophia from Rec and Parks. Thank you for keeping us safe and keeping our family safe as we're out exploring the trails. And thank you to my colleague, Councilmember Brown. She's an excellent council member, but she's even a greater mother, and we appreciate all that she's doing for our community. Thank you, Councilmember Brown. Before we move on to our final section about small business, a quick note on voting. But don't worry if you have not voted yet. You still have a chance to vote by mail until April 28th. That means all ballots must be returned to the Board of Elections by 7:30 p.m. on Tuesday, April 28th of this month. Any registered voter who has not already cast a ballot can request an absentee ballot application by calling 614-525-3470. That is 614-525-3470, or visiting the Franklin County Board of Elections website. Now let's talk about how small businesses can assess important programs and relief during this difficult time. I'd like to introduce my colleague, my friend, Emmanuel Remy, who chairs the Development Committee, and Ashley Bell, one of my brothers who I met many, many years ago, who now is the Federal Policy Advisor on Entrepreneurship and Innovation and Small Business Administration Representative. That's a lot to say, but it also entails a lot of great work that he is doing. So with that, I'm going to kick it off to Councilmember Remy.
Thank you, Council President Harden. First, before I get started, I want to wish someone in the room a very happy birthday. Happy birthday, Council President Harden.
Thank you. You look pretty spiffy yourself right now. Like, we've been on these FaceTimes all week. This is the cleanest I've seen my council member.
I'm trying to clean up. I do clean up well once in a while.
Thank you, council member.
Well, I want to start off by thanking my council colleagues, our guests, departmental leadership, and the community for recognizing the importance of these discussions. With each passing day of the stay-at-home order, we'll need to get more and more information out to the public. We have to get creative and ensure that all of Columbus is getting the information that they need. This is why, as chair of the Economic Development Committee, I'm honored to lead us in our discussion regarding small business. The City of Columbus has received a great deal of outreach from small business owners and concerned residents alike regarding the health of our small business community and resources available to get them through these trying times. Council has worked steadily to get a number of tools in the hands of the community. Some of these tools include a robust small business resource guide that is updated daily, that includes a list with links to federal, state, and local resources for both employers and employees. This guide can be found on the city's main page under COVID-19 resources at columbus.gov. The city has also paused interest and principal payments on all current loans that we provide to small businesses. The Department of Development is continually searching for small business grant opportunities to complement and fill funding gaps created by other small business funding sources currently available. There will be more information on this to come. Most importantly, we want to make sure that small businesses are aware that Henry Galat and his team are available to any Columbus business to help navigate the myriad of programs that are out there. Their technical assistance will help ensure that small businesses are getting the maximum assistance they need. Henry and his team can be reached at 614-645-1984 or emailed at HAGOLLATT, I'm sorry, one L, HAGOLATT at columbus.gov. Additionally, the Office of Diversity and Inclusion is actively focusing on addressing the needs of small and minority businesses. The office is still open and currently registering new businesses with the city every day. For more information from them, please visit columbus.gov/ODI. Now I'd like to turn it over to Ashley Bell of the U.S. Small Business Association to share a few words. Ashley?
Thank you. Thank you, Leader, for that introduction. I'm glad to be with you, and happy birthday also to my friend. I look forward to receiving that the Instagram link to your birthday party, since I can't be there to celebrate with you. But thank you so much for having me here in Columbus with you today. It's an important time and a very urgent one. So I want to share with everyone a few of the resources available to them by the United States Small Business Administration. Two resources that we have are virtue of the CARES Act and stimulus packages that have been passed by Congress and signed by the President. The first is an EIDL loan. An EIDL loan is a disaster loan. The state of Ohio was declared a disaster for small businesses. And by thus having that declaration, for-profits and nonprofits now can benefit from this program. You can receive up to $2 million loan from the SBA by going to sba.gov and applying. If you have up to 10 employees, those 10 employees will enable you to be able to apply for a loan, and the first $10,000 of that loan can be given to you in advance in as little as 72 hours. That first $10,000 you do not have to pay back. It is an advance and a grant free of any other obligations. Let's say, for example, you had a loan for $50,000 that you applied for. Well, that first $10,000, if you have 10 employees, will become free. The other $40,000 would now be an obligation. That obligation will be at 3.75% if you're for-profit, 2.75% if you're nonprofit, and could be amortized over 30 years. So that gives you a little bit of time to adjust your cash flow beyond this pandemic and make sure that you can get back on the road to recovery very quickly and soon. The second program is called the PPP program. This program has a mission. The mission is to get people back on payrolls. As you know, across our country, we're seeing unprecedented unemployment. The goal is to lower that number. So the purpose is to make sure that people are employing people. And if for whatever reason, if you had to let people go due to loss of sales or issues with this coronavirus, you can hire them back and allow them back on your payroll. And you can keep them there for 8 weeks and include your overhead and have that amount forgiven by the federal government. This program is important. And this program is not administered by SBA, but really by your local lender. So for more information on availability of this program, please contact your local lender for more info. This loan can go up to $10 million. And also, if you have an SBA loan right now for your business, you're able to have that loan forgiven for 6 months. SBA will pay your principal and your interest for 6 months. One last addition to this program was this past Saturday. The administration opened the doors for churches, synagogues, mosques, all faith-based organizations to participate in this program fully. So if you have a church that has been struggling due to the coronavirus, not able to have attendees on Sunday, and maybe you're a small church that doesn't have ability to get donations online, this payroll protection program will now apply to you. So your pastor's salary and other salaries of workers in the church or your faith-based organization can now be covered for 8 weeks with the same obligations as for-profit entities. For more information on this particular loan, make sure you contact your local lender and tell them you want to apply for the PPP for your church. And I want to turn it back over to the City Council President for any questions that anyone may have.
Thank you, Mr. Bell. I really appreciate the work that you're doing. You're seeing this almost in real time, and some of these programs just have been made opened up in the last couple of days. What are you seeing on the ground so far? Like, how is the application so far been? And then the second kind of follow up: what can cities do to be better partners as we work to get this information and these resources out to small businesses?
Well, I think the challenge is there's tremendous demand. This is truly a crisis, an economic crisis of one that we've never seen before. So the demand is through the roof. So the question is, how can we handle this demand? Many of our banks have already hit their limit on the amount of participants that they're taking. So now we're opening up other avenues. So if you have any CDFIs in your community, any fintech organizations in your community, or credit unions that are not currently SBA lenders, please send them to their local SBA office in Columbus to make sure they do sign up. In order for us to meet the capacity of the community, and especially this Friday, April 10th, which is the very first day, if you're a sole proprietor or independent contractor, that you can participate in the PPP program. We're going to need more lenders to handle the capacity. So we're asking our local city and county partners, if there's banks out there in your locality that are not participating, please urge them to do so. SBA is 100% backing these loans. 100% of this loan is guaranteed by the federal government. We're paying the fees. We're taking all the risk. So the banks have only to gain by making sure they can apply this loan and distribute it to the citizens in the city who need it the most.
Man, that's awesome information, and we will certainly do our part to help share that and work with our local banks. Mr. Bell, so I've heard you talk over the last couple of weeks, and thank you for your engagement in Columbus. It has really been helpful. You have been spreading the word through different media's forms to some of our local African-American radio stations and such. I heard you talk the other day about the oversized impact that a crisis like this will have on minority communities and specifically minority business communities. As chair of the Small and Minority Business Committee, that's really important to me. I was wondering if you could elaborate on that and why it's so important that we do bring in and have some specific outreach as it pertaining to minority businesses.
That's a very excellent point. We are facing a crisis that we've never seen before. We are threatened with the possibility of losing an entire generation of entrepreneurs if we do not act fast. The unfortunate statistics tell us that the 57% of African-American entrepreneurs have 0 to 10 days of working capital. That means that they had to close their doors because of Corona, if they had to stop taking clients because of this virus, that in 0 to 10 days will be their last day. So we must get this message out quickly. For every day, we're possibly losing an entrepreneur and the people who depend on that service. When you look at that number, then you look at 90% of minority-owned businesses have no employees. They're sole proprietorships or independent contractors. It's incredibly important. As Friday comes and we open up the doors for entrepreneurs who are sole proprietors, many of which are minorities who don't have employees, are going to be looking for assistance. The only way we can meet that demand is to make sure that the lenders are open for business and that we find every possible lender who could join us. And SBA has removed many regulations for anyone to sign up to be a lender on our program. They need to sign up to meet this demand. It is a tremendous demand that we need the help. So when 90% of your businesses don't have employees, when you have 0 to 10 days in order to get the working capital to save your business, these tools that we're talking about are critical. And I can promise you this. If you're a minority entrepreneur, I know I've been one my entire life. I know what it's like to have the feeling that you can't go into a bank and ask for a loan unless you can prove you don't need a loan. And that's an unfortunate feeling. But I can tell you that this is also an opportunity. If you look at our EIDL program, if you look at the ability to go into a situation where you can apply for a loan online, and that alone for the first $25,000 does not ask you for collateral, does not ask you for a personal guarantee. And our PPP program does not ask you for a personal guarantee up to $200,000, and still be able to get a loan with 1% interest on the PPP side and 3.75% interest on the EIDL side for working capital. That is an unheard of opportunity. And especially given the fact that whatever loan you take out, you can amortize over 30 years to help your cash flow. This is actually giving us as a community an opportunity to cast a very wide net into the entrepreneurship community and catch as many people in the credit market that we can. There's so many of us are operating every day with no employees in a purely cash-based business. But to leverage debt in a way to grow your business is the first step to creating generational wealth. And I think that's a critical conversation that you and I know we've had in the community for so long. And there's many times we know that generational wealth begins with what you can pass down to the next generation. You may not can pass down a job, but you can pass down a business. And taking this step to take advantage of these programs can put you on the path to making sure your business, all the hard work and blood, sweat, and tears that you put into it can be passed down to someone else. And that's what we're talking about. That's what's at stake. That can't happen if these businesses fail. We cannot let them fail.
Thank you, man. I just really can't say enough how much we appreciate the attention that you are showing. If you're showing this much attention to all the communities around this country under your jurisdiction, then we'll be well served through this crisis. Crisis management is about leadership and about getting the right information to the right folks. And over the last several days, you have been doing that very well. So we appreciate you, Ashley, for all your support of Columbus and our small business community. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Leader. Happy birthday.
Thank you. Thank you. Councilmember Remy, we have several questions for you as well. One that we have received in via email says, what is being done to ensure that our response to the looming economic crisis is equal to our response to the COVID public health crisis? How is the city and state stepping up to assist impacted Ohio workers?
Well, thank you very much. We continue to work with our partners at the state and federal levels to make sure that the money that Ashley was talking about earlier is trickling down to the cities. And, I would say that his discussion and the points that he made about the opportunities available to small businesses is incredibly important because small businesses are the backbone of our country and certainly our city. So we'll continue to advocate with those partners, as well as making sure that we're looking at every creative possibility that we can from a city perspective to make sure that there's robust resources available to every member of the small business community. We certainly realize that the economic impact is going to be significant. It already is, but we also don't know where the light at the end of the tunnel is at this point. So we certainly are going to make sure that we're continuing these discussions and advocating for as much resources as possible for our small business community.
Thank you, Councilmember. Another question that came in from Ryan Brooks, Cumberledge. He asks, how are construction jobs essential right now if they put extra people out in the community not sheltering at home? Do you have any context or thoughts on that question?
Yeah, so I've had the opportunity to talk to a lot of our developers around town, and they are taking every precaution that's been recommended, taking temperatures as people walk in, doing social distancing, making sure that a safe distance is kept between workers. The economic impact of construction work to come to a complete halt would really catapult our economy into even further decline than it already is right now. We need to continue to work towards the future. I mean, the one bright spot, if there is a bright spot about this particular recession, is we're likely to get out of this a lot faster than we did, say, of the Great Recession of 08 and 09. And so making sure that people that have construction in progress right now that continues is incredibly important to the overall health of our economy. And so, as long as those construction jobs and sites are taking the right precautions, like the ones that I've just talked to are, we're in good stead. And, it does prolong the construction process because you don't have workers working together like they may be during previous times. But it does mean that we can continue to progress as Columbus, the economy was so robust prior to this, and hopefully is one of the reasons we'll get out of this a lot faster than some other parts of the country.
Thank you, Councilmember. And I know one last resource for folks who have questions around small business is our Columbus Chamber. They're doing a great job of putting information out, and you can find information there at columbus.org. If you have any additional follow-up questions. Thank you, Councilmember Remy, and thank you to Ashley Bell for that segment. I just want to thank all the council members and all the participants this evening. Would any of my colleagues like to make any closing remarks? And I see Councilmember Rob Dorrance is with us, and I want to open it up to him first if he would like to. If you give us a second to unmute you.
I think I'm unmuted. All right.
Unmuted, man.
Thank you, Council President Harden. Again, happy birthday. Looking forward to that virtual pizza party later. Wanted to add a little bit to what Councilmember Reedy mentioned about the construction market here in Central Ohio. Over the last few weeks, I've worked very closely with the different building trades unions here in Central Ohio to make sure that they were taking all the precautions possible in order to protect their members who are out working in the field currently. There has been several projects that have been shut down because of the lack of the ability to have real social distancing. But the vast majority of projects have been able to continue with additional measures, as Councilmember Reedy has mentioned, to keep a good chunk of the economy continue to move here in Central Ohio. Folks are continuing to make sure that they're monitoring these job sites to make sure that they're doing everything possible to keep workers safe during this time. The other thing I wanted to take a moment to mention is that a lot of folks are in the unemployment comp process right now. And people have been rather frustrated with the lengths and waits that have happened. Obviously, the system here in Ohio is not designed for 600,000 people to apply for unemployment compensation that quickly. So they have hired hundreds of new people to work for the state of Ohio. And the big thing to note is that whenever you apply for those benefits, your application will be backdated to that. So if your application has not been approved and it takes additional time in order for that to happen, please know that you will be provided additional benefits backdated to when you originally applied. And that's something that a lot of folks in our community have been very concerned about. So just wanted to make sure that folks continue to understand that that's an ongoing process. The state of Ohio is building an additional unemployment compensation program right now for gig economy workers, so those who are 1099 or independent contractors. That's hopefully going to be deployed here in the next 2 to 3 weeks. So we'll be sure to continue to post information about the unemployment compensation system as we get it on our Facebook page. Thanks, President Harden. Good to see everybody.
Thank you, Councilmember Dorrance. That work that you're doing around the unemployment benefits and directing folks to that difficult process is something that we're very, very grateful for. So thank you so much. How about President Pro Tem Elizabeth Brown? Do you have any final remarks as we close out this afternoon?
I think I talked enough. So the only thing I will say is to please continue to stay home if you can. And thank you if you aren't staying up because you're showing up in order for the rest of us to stay home. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, President Pro Tem. And we will end with our own Councilmember Mitch Brown. Councilmember, 1 second, we'll get to you so we can hear you.
President.
There we go.
Again, thank you, Council President. I'd like to take this opportunity to offer our support for our senior residents in our community and their families. While we're dealing with some very, very difficult and trepidation times, we want to make it perfectly clear that we're here to help and to offer assistance for anybody, and especially those who are over the age of 60. Those who are over the age of 60 need to seek assistance should contact the Central Ohio Area Agency on Aging at 614-645-7250. In addition, the Age-Friendly Columbus and Franklin County, the Greater Columbus Network of Villages, and the Clintonville Community Resource Center have teamed up to provide additional resources to senior adults in the Columbus community. If you are in need of supplies, canned goods, food, toiletries, or cleaning supplies, please call 614-268-3539. As the governor's stay-at-home order was recently amended to limit the number of customers in stores at one time, I strongly suggest that seniors contact their regular grocer to confirm if they are offering special hours for older adults. If you're at home alone and need someone to talk to, please call the friendly phone line at 614-993-3614. It takes a community to make sure that no one is left behind, and that is exactly our responsibility. I urge all residents to reach out to one another. As vulnerable residents in Columbus, especially older adults, begin by extending a deal with this issue of isolation, but it's vital that we contact our friends, our families, and our neighbors, and that we check with them. Together we can get through this stronger and better on the other side. And I also, like my colleague, Councilmember Brown, stay safe, stay healthy, practice social distancing, and if possible, wear a mask when in public. Remy, you don't need to wear a mask.
Sorry. Thank you, Councilmember Mitch Brown. Just finally, I want to remind everyone that you can find a huge list of resources at columbus.gov/COVID-19 resources. Finally, I am excited that next Tuesday, April 14th at 4 p.m., we'll be back here for another virtual town hall. We want to make sure that we, again, are providing accurate information to the public and allowing you to have your questions answered. I want to give a special appreciation to Abby and the folks at the Deaf Services Center. No, we heard there were a few technical difficulties in the display. We're going to try to get those worked out as we replay this throughout the week. But we are very grateful for you being here and making this available to all of our residents. On behalf of all of council, just thank you, Columbus. Continue to stay safe. Continue to stay at home at all possible. And thank you to our first responders and for all of those who are being so essential in keeping Columbus moving. Take care.